Ooh. Yeah, man. Like it was a gunshot. It like went inside my ear and hit my brain and came back out. Shit.
You gotta be careful with that high production sound effects. You feel good, Thompson?
Yeah.
I got that passion fruit for today's topic.
Oh, passion fruit? I got that Modelo Especial. Cheers. One for the bar.
They stay there, bro. So I got the passion fruit for today's topic.
Oh, nice. Oh, I get it. I didn't even think about it. I was just
a lot of passion.
Okay.
And fruit seems to be sometimes a
Delicious.
metaphor for delicious or maybe young things.
Okay.
Maybe.
Fruit.
Do you remember Mary Kay
Letourneau?
You remember her?
I probably will when I see her face.
I don't think she's the first, but she was definitely 20 years ago the reason that we were like, oh my God, teachers are having sex with students.
Okay.
I think it's a fantasy sometimes, majority
a lot of times.
Males. So I think females sometimes
I wouldn't know about what's, I guess, necessary. I'm in a female's brain, but I don't know.
Well, I think that it's something.
I think it's different things for different people in general, how they feel about someone older. You know what I mean? Or early on in their life. It's just different for all types of people. Some people, it's like, oh, he's like 25. And then some is like, he's like 25 or something like that, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
at least that's what I've known in high school, as when I was in high school and interacting with other people in my own kind of interactions with older.
Well, she was in middle school, okay? And the guy that she got
with... The girl was in middle school?
No, the teacher.
Teacher was in middle school.
Was in middle school. This was 20 years ago. I'm going to play this video so you can hear some of the context. Okay, she had sex, or they said that she raped a 12 or 13-year-old young Asian kid, okay? They gave her 8 months in jail for it. When she got out, she got back with the kid and had a baby. So they gave her 7 years. When she got out of jail, she married the same kid, and they had 2 kids. And
yeah, I remember
they later.
This was all over the place.
Yeah, but it's just crazy.
And this happened in Florida.
No, this didn't. This was just the first case.
Oh, okay.
That ever happened.
Oh, okay. I'm like, yo.
So this.
I don't remember this happening.
I'm gonna play this to give you context of where the history of this started.
Oh, you saying this is the first big one?
This is what drove it, like, because of the media, into the psyche of us, like, wow, there's really teachers having sex with their students.
Okay.
Now the story of Mary Kay Letourneau. You may remember she was a teacher sent to prison for having sex with a 13-year-old student. Then they married, started a family. It's all told in a new documentary. Diana Sater here with the details. Hey, Diana.
George, so many people have wondered about this relationship. Now Mary Kay Letourneau is finally giving viewers an inside look at her controversial life and how she's doing now.
Am I sorry he's the father of my children and that we're married and this is the man of my life? No, I'm not.
More than 20 years since the scandal that shocked the nation.
A 35-year-old teacher who had sex with a 13-year-old sixth grader sentenced to 80 days in prison.
Mary Kay Letourneau,
80
the
days.
then married mother of 4 who pled guilty to raping her 13-year-old former student, Vili Fulau, is hoping to set the record straight in a new A&E Network biography special called Mary Kay Letourneau Autobiography.
First of all, I was a teacher, and Vili was once a student, but we weren't, there was nothing going on at all when he was a student of mine.
So, I'm not going to play this whole video, but like I told you, so she was in school.
She had sex with him when he was 12.
Right, got 80 days for it. Okay, no, she was having misconduct with him. Got 80 days for that. When
what is
she
that?
got out,
what is misconduct?
You know, being around when they told him not to be, you know, like flirting with each other, things like that. And then when she got out, they had sex. She got pregnant. Okay, and
after
then
the 80 days,
they gave her 7 years because of that.
Right.
Now, my whole question is, after she got out, they got back together, had 2 kids, grown adults.
Like now, today?
Well, this is a theme that's going to go on with these stories today, that sometimes, depending on the age, it's usually older than 13, right? Sometimes male and female teachers get with these kids and they end up forming relationships afterwards, right? Like long relationships.
Right.
So is that wrong? Like, yes, it's wrong that they're having sex, but then fast forward in the future, they fought to stay together.
Which part is wrong? Are you asking me which part is wrong to me?
Yeah, like it's
the part where they're having sex with a 12-year-old.
Well, yeah, we're not talking about 12-year-old. We're talking about 14 and older.
So 14 makes it better?
It doesn't make it better, but that's where it starts.
Yeah, so
all the cases below 14, they don't stay together. It's like the kids, they were uncomfortable, but predominantly the ones that are older than 14, I would say about 60% of them end up staying together somewhere. You know what I mean? It might be a little less percentage, but it's still a high percentage.
Right, but if this person had not interacted with them at that young age and waited until they were of age, would the of age person still have, in different scenarios, still have wanted to do anything with this person? Or was it because of the situation and because of his or her influence and power over the other? Because a lot of, at least as I see it, a lot of times when people hook up, they're attracted to each other. And why are people attracted to each other? Because their looks, their status, their money, their knowledge. So they're kind of how, like, you know, how sure of yourself you're able to, like, kind of like, I'll keep trying to not use the word manipulate, but, like, you know, I'll like get people, sell yourself a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, then if
an older person, more likely is easy to kind of like, they're more sure of themselves, they know themselves, and they know the right things to say.
If the child at 14 does not feel like, from 14 to 17, right, does not feel like they're being manipulated or they're being, and I know they're young, but let's say it's
not even that they're young, is that most 14 or 17-year-olds or 20-year-olds or 14, I would say at least 20. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. Not really.
But should prosecutors have a discretion based on, they know they got to spend resources and tax money, and if they know that they're not going to be able to prosecute
about like if
the case,
these kids are down or whatever?
Yeah, they're not on the prosecution side, and they're giving the prosecution, like, yes, it's wrong. I can agree with that, right? We all can agree with that. But at some point, it becomes a waste of resources on the prosecution side because and cops and stuff, because they're chasing these kids that don't really want to prosecute these people. It is wrong, but a lot of these cases are being thrown out.
It's not the kid's decision, though, right, to prosecute anybody?
No, it's the prosecutor's decision and the parents. You know what I mean?
Kids, you know.
But again, that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the ones that are wanting to prosecute or they feel like they were abused, right? Yes, let's go forth with these. But for the cases like this, right, where they clearly had two children and it was a repeated thing and the kid doesn't feel like he's being abused, should the prosecutors throw it out even though it's illegal? Because that's what's happening. I'm going to give you a statistic. So this is a video.
Again, look, well, real quick before you play that. So if I can convince you that something is okay, right? Because I'm smarter than you, more experienced than you, and whatever.
That happens every day. Your bosses are doing that to you right now.
That doesn't make it right or whatever, you know.
But that happens every day.
I know, but it doesn't make it right. So just because, you know, someone older tells someone younger that you're the most amazing person and makes them feel really good. Maybe this person comes from a bad...
It's really about experience. It's not older or younger. It's about the older person clearly has more experience.
But guess what happens when I've been on this earth twice the time that you've been on this earth? I have more experience. Like, that just happens.
No, that happens when you get to a certain adult age and you've been mastering. I understand that, but when you've been mastering one thing, that doesn't mean that adult is going to be good in all aspects of things. So even when they get into a new thing,
for sure,
they're going to have a young mind.
For sure, but we're not talking about like a barber or a lawnmower specialist. We're talking about a person in life interacting with people just all the time, things that everybody does all the time. We're not talking about like a job. We're talking about just things that happen to everyone all the time.
Well, it's like the argument of like, should you have credit card companies on college campuses? Because those kids, realistically, the majority of them do not know any financial literacy, and they get stuck into these like student debts and these credit cards, and that's taking. I mean, they're going to be a slave to those debts for their whole life. Wrong again, but it happens. You know, again, taking advantage of young because of their lack of experience. This happens across the board, not just sexually.
Right.
So,
but again, just because it happens doesn't mean it's right.
No, I'm not trying to make a right out of it. I'm just trying to.
Right. So you're saying the question was, should the prosecution look the other way, basically, or like not go for it as hard?
Because overwhelmingly, I'm going to play this video from our friends at WFTV, and this says this is in general cases for like the last 9 years, not just in school, just abuses to minors, right? Or sexual abuse cases, right? In general, across the board. And a lot of these cases just get thrown out because the other side doesn't. So it's like, yes, the government has to intervene, right? Because, you know, they have to support the structure of society and keep people in boundaries with these laws and stuff, so they don't do crazy things. But in these domestic situations, sometimes I think that we should give the prosecutors a little more leeway so that they don't spend so much money and resource and time. You know what I mean? Because overwhelmingly the statistics show that a lot of these cases either get pled out, right, because people don't want to ruin their reputation and they want to just get rid of the case as quickly as possible. Or maybe they don't have financial resources to get an attorney and all that, so they just plead out. And then a lot of them just get thrown out because the prosecution can't build a substantial case with no real victim because the victim is in compliance with the act, the abuse. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. That's the first argument that I want to present in the podcast today, and I want to ask everybody, what do you guys think? Yes, it's absolutely wrong what's going on here, but in situations like the Mary lady, and I'm going to show you more things that happen in Florida, the same thing happened where the prosecution just has to throw it out, and it's just like a waste of time because it's a domestic issue. It's almost kind of like when you show up when the cops show up to a house.
When somebody sleeps with somebody that's 14 and you're 35, it's not a domestic issue. You know what I mean?
It is in the laws of the eyes.
The laws of the eyes.
In the eyes of the law,
it's a domestic issue because they can't prove it.
No,
because they're having problems proving the case.
Because domestic in the sense of like you know, when you show up to a house and the couple's fighting, that's a domestic violence. So it's a domestic law. Like they come in and they have to enforce a law because there was an abuse to a child. So a domestic situation. You abuse somebody in your house, that's a domestic situation.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like they were in a relationship. They were in a domestic.
Well, it is a relationship. When you beat your parents or your parents beat you, it's still domestic violence.
Again, when I say relationship, I mean like it's okay for them to do such things because they're in love or they're together.
Right.
Yeah. So they're not in a relationship, you know, not really. He's being taken advantage of by an older person, and abused.
But they don't feel like they're being abused.
It doesn't matter. Again, at 14, and we're talking about like young kids now. Now, if we're talking about like 17, 18, 19, I'll start to like.
You think they have a little more maturity at that point?
Yeah, a little more.
Enough to have consensual sex. Because some states say 16 is okay.
Yeah, and you know that's again, it's the law. So if we're talking about that statutory, you know, all of her decisions and all of the parents sign off and all of those kind of laws that exist, okay.
So that's okay if the parents sign off.
I would have to say so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I would have to say so. I wouldn't agree with probably a lot of choices that the parents would make at all, especially when you get into people who like are terrible people and would like to sell people off for different reasons or whatever, you know? So, but if the parent says this thing, kids of a certain age, it's the law. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's not awesome, obviously, but it's one of those gray areas. It gets crazy around those ages, you know, because, you know, you start to get more experience with things, you know.
How many?
A 14-year-old boy is going to a lot of times want to do stuff with people, you know. They're just going to want to get around.
What about a 14-year-old girl? She's not sexually promiscuous.
A boy, so? Girl, whatever.
Right.
12 to, I would say around 12, it starts to get whatever, you know.
I seen my first porno when I was 10.
You can experience things a lot, but to like open your eyes and like be excited about what you're seeing, not just curious and kind of confused and or terrified. Like, what's that? What's happening? Is she okay? You know what I mean? You know, there's difference.
Remember the guy was like, lick my balls.
Right. And then there's a difference between that and then going to look for it and whatever and like wanting to see it and then arousal and then all these other things that come with wanting to get into that situation.
I lost my virginity to an older woman. Okay. And it was a great experience. I was 17 years old.
Right.
And she cleaned houses for my mom, so I knew her. She cleaned houses. I don't know if I met her through my mom, but anyway, the point is that I lost my virginity to her. And at the time, the first time I kind of ever fooled around was in 8th grade, and it was a girl my age. And I noticed that when I was fooling around with her, she was not uncomfortable with fooling around, but she just wanted to be more guarded because she didn't want me to feel like she was easy, I guess, and she didn't want to feel like it's taking advantage. So I guess if I would have waited longer with the girl that I was talking about in 8th grade, maybe I would have had sex with her first. Mm-hmm. But because it made me feel like I was pressuring her into something, and I just wasn't about that. Mm-hmm. So we fooled around, you know, a little foreplay, but no penetration, right? Mm-hmm. When I turned, this happened several times again in high school with other girls and stuff like that, but with girls my age, it was just never penetration, right? Because I always felt like I was kind of taking something from them in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the girls were virgins, right? But when I met...
So you were, I guess,
what?
In that way. I said, so if they were virgins, then you were kind of taking something.
Right, and that's how I felt. And even though my friends were doing the same thing, and they would say, oh, when they say, you know, no... they might, you just have to kind of, don't force your way, but eventually they're going to say yes. But I was like, nah, that just feels rapey to me. You know what I mean?
Because it is.
Right. But this is the 90s, man. This is the way this is,
same age as you, bro. I know.
So this is the context of the way we grew up and how our friends would, like, yeah, do this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So when I got with the older lady, she made me feel very comfortable. And she was just very opening, and I didn't feel that same. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like she was taking advantage of me because I wanted to have sex, but I didn't feel like I was taking advantage of her by taking anything. And it was a very comfortable experience. Again, that's one experience out of billions.
I have a lot of experiences. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it gets great in those kind of areas. But we're talking about 14. I would say 14 is too close to 13, which is too close to 12. 15, 16, 17, there's something in there that kind of starts to muddy the waters of...
How many occurrences do you think happen in like Florida with the education system a year?
Occurrences of
sexual abuse?
It's got to be in the hundreds for sure. I hesitate to say thousands because then I'd be really sad.
Hey guys, hope you had a pleasant week. Today's story is heavy like Phraydoe. So let's get educated on teacher sex. Or student-teacher sex. You know what I mean. From childrenstreatmentcenter.com. Sexual abuse by teachers is on the rise. Lately, it seems like it has become common to see news stories involving the arrest of teachers who are being charged with sexual abuse and misconduct involving their students, some of whom are as young as 11 years old. Schools are expected to be a safe environment for children, but these arrests make people realize kids aren't as safe as we'd like them to be when we send them off to school. Stop Educators Sexual Abuse, Misconduct and Exploitation, Sesame, is an organization that describes itself as a national voice for prevention of abuse by educators and other school employees. It has compiled alarming statistics on the incidences of sexual abuse in schools nationwide, reporting that just under 500 educators were arrested in 2017. 2018 statistics were unavailable as of this writing. Of children in 8th through 11th grade, about 3.5 million students, nearly 7%, surveyed reported having had physical sexual contact from an adult, most often a teacher or coach.
The type of physical contact ranged from unwanted touching of their body, all the way up to sexual intercourse. This statistic increases to about 4.5 million children, 10%, when it takes other types of sexual misconduct into consideration, such as being shown pornography or being subjected to sexually explicit language or exhibitionism. Very often, other teachers thought there might be something going on, but were afraid to report a fellow educator if they were wrong. They didn't want to be responsible for ruining a person's life, although that is exactly what they are doing to the child if they don't speak up, thus allowing the abuse to continue. Reasons for the increase in sexual misconduct. So, why are we suddenly seeing a rise in the number of cases of sexual misconduct and teacher-slash-student relationships? It may be partially due to more transparency as schools seek to report what they formerly kept hidden and tried to deal with on their own. More than likely, however, the upward trend is due to the use of social media and cell phones. The Washington Post ran a story in 2015 that related how about 80% of children aged 12-17 had a cell phone and 94% had a Facebook account that year. In 2014, the Post says about 35% of the educators convicted or accused of sexual misconduct had used social media to gain access to their victims or to...
It's a lot easier for pedophiles to, like, basically...
The access is easier.
And profile them. You know,
technology has made everything in this world easier. You can go to Amazon and get you a whatever, send it to your house. But now you can go online, get you a 14-year-old in Florida for some reason. It's
Do
like
you think that it's
magnified the amount of like creepers that are come from wherever. Buddies come from like Canada. He drove like 27 hours to buy this 15-year-old, but it was an FBI agent. Those are awesome stories when there's a bunch of people just getting busted.
Yeah, but we're talking about teachers here.
Yeah, I'm
These
sorry.
people.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, it's happening. It's a shitty. But imagine people that you are supposed to look up to and admire and, you know, feel comfortable around. And it happens over 500 times or close to 500 times
a year.
You know what I mean?
No, they get arrested for it.
Exactly. So it's happening more. What do you think?
Because of the ones that are comfortable with it, that are fine with it, that are cool, right? That don't show all their friends and make a big deal out of it, that actually just do it and are mature, so they don't tell everyone and they just enjoy if that's what they're trying to do, and then they just go about their life.
Who do you think would be the most predator? Right, let's classify them either male or female, right? Or let's classify them by race: black, white, Hispanic. Who do you think would be? Is it like a Hispanic male or a black male or a black female or a white female? Who is the more predator-esque? If we're just going to classify them and generalize.
Not doing that. I'm not. You know
why?
I'll say male or female, but I'm not putting a race on it.
Okay, why not?
Why wouldn't I put a race on it?
Yeah, if it's overwhelming.
Okay, so whatever I say, right? Whether it be black, Asian, Mexican, Korean, or whatever, right? All it's going to do is show what my personal bias is in this world. When in fact, it would be an impossibility for me to just sit here and say it's this, because it's impossible for...
Because why? We're all human.
We're all the same.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody has equal opportunity to be a creep, because you grow up a certain way, you become a creep. You know what I mean?
Well,
But I would say it overwhelmingly would be male.
You think so?
Sure.
Well...
I have no problem throwing males under the bus.
It's crazy because according to these stories, it's just about everybody. So I'm going to show a couple of these stories so you guys see the consensus that it really is nothing to do with male, female, race. They all do it. They're all predators. So this is a crazy... The reason I'm playing this one first is because I want to show a little bit of the way the family reacts to the teacher's family. So the student's family is in the courthouse with the teacher's family, right? And this was crazy. Like, this girl got 22 years for sleeping with a few kids in her class.
Now at 5:30, charges dropped. A former high school teacher accused of having...
Wrong story, guys.
Charges dropped. So you said...
well, let's go ahead and we'll start with that, because you said males, right?
I think so.
Okay, so this, like I was saying, overwhelmingly, before we get into the dirt, I want to say that even though there's a lot of occurrences and it's a crazy epidemic, there's also a lot of times where people get mischarged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, again, this is a situation where if the party's accepting it, then the case has to get thrown out. So I'm gonna play this real quick. This is a situation with a male teacher, and they dismissed everything, and how, you know,
spoiler alert. Nope.
What happened?
No.
Today, the state attorney dropping the case earlier.
And now the music teacher who resigned during the investigations wants to re-enter the classroom. CBS 4's Natalia Zaya has more on today's hearing in Miami.
Christopher Best had to pose for this mugshot last month, but he didn't have to appear in court Wednesday to hear prosecutors are throwing out the sex charges against him.
Oh, sweet.
I think it's unfortunate that he got accused of these very serious allegations.
In court, the state gave a short explanation for dropping the charge that Best had an ongoing sexual relationship with a 17-year-old female student at Palmetto Senior High School while he worked there as a music teacher. They say the student is now refusing to talk.
The state has no choice. We do not have sufficient evidence to file.
Yeah.
And we'll take no further action.
Yeah.
So this happens a lot.
Okay,
but that's the point I was making.
Well, I know, but it wasn't because they didn't do it because she didn't want to say anything. In that instance, they specifically did. But the reason they were dropping the case was literally because they didn't have evidence. If they had like video of them doing it, it wouldn't have mattered what she said or did do or wouldn't want to do or none of that shit. You know, it has nothing to do with like her wants in that respect. It does kind of, because they need her corroboration, whatever. They need her to say, yes, this happened, for them to have the evidence to make it true. But if they had other evidence, his ass would still be going to jail.
What about when it ruins your career and they drop the case? Like you go through the whole thing, and here's a story where it's kind of
your career of teaching children and watching children and being around children, and well, you did though.
No, because listen to this case.
Fighting to get his life back, the state has decided not to prosecute him on lewd or lascivious molestation charges.
In 2015, Douglas Bailey was charged for allegedly touching a student inappropriately. This summer, prosecutors decided to drop those charges.
On your sides, Ken Amaro joins us now, and Ken, Bailey says he has lost all trust in the judicial system.
That's correct, Anthony. Bailey says he's maintained his innocence since 2015. He says he was offered a plea deal more than once, and he refused. Now that the charges have been dropped, Bailey wants to rebuild his life, but says he doesn't know where to begin.
Sweet bow tie.
I feel lost. That's honestly how I feel.
Douglas Bailey
He's got the pedo vibe, allegedly.
Years of his life. A dark and lonely place, documented in the stacks of paper around him.
I feel like I've just come out of a terrible, terrible nightmare. And I'm trying to rebuild my life, and I just don't know how.
Bailey says he was held captive in his home by an ankle monitor, and his mind was occupied with the thoughts of the allegations against him.
I had the support of my school and my family and friends, and that is the only way that I have survived for this 2.5 years.
That's pretty much
everybody,
right?
I've lost my savings. I've lost everything.
In March 2015,
your family and
Bailey
your friends.
was
That's pretty
accused
good.
by 2 third graders of touching them inappropriately and them touching him. He says the allegations were always false.
Oh, that sucks, man.
I did everything that I was supposed to do as a teacher when it comes to being around children and protocol, and I was never alone.
The 9-year classroom veteran now wonders if he will ever be back in the classroom.
And I want to go back, but I doubt that's ever going to be possible now. They destroyed my life.
In August, Bailey received a letter stating the state's attorney's office has dropped the charges against him. This is the first time he's spoken about the case. He wants his name clear.
So how come he can't
They
get a job
dropped
back?
this case just
If it
like
was
that,
true.
and I'm just supposed to pick up my life and start all over again. I'm angry now. I loved being a teacher. I loved my school and everybody there and those kids, and I've lost it all. And now I realize it.
Well, you can't get it back.
Now, the state attorney's office says the improbability of conviction is the reason for the decision not to prosecute. One of the students and a witness as well recanted their stories. However, according to the state attorney, the one child victim remains consistent with his story, and that has not wavered. The police agreed with the decision not to prosecute. The family of the child victim disagrees. Bailey is now working to get his arrest.
So allegedly, he didn't do it.
A lot of that seems up in the air.
Allegedly, he does have the pedo vibe to me. I could be wrong.
Allegedly, he does have the pedo vibe.
I'm trying to, like, I'm not saying he does, but he doesn't, but it looks like it. I'm just saying, I'm assuming. I'm jumping to conclusions again, Thompson.
You know, I hate to, you know, I'm not going to do that to the man, but it,
well,
the table
the reason I bring up these cases is because predominantly a lot of these cases get thrown out like that, you know, and it's a gray area. It seems like something went down.
I don't know.
So
I wasn't there.
I want to show, but I want to show this side of it, you know, because I don't want
the unsure side,
because it happens a lot.
It happens a lot,
and a lot of people. Let's say he didn't do it, and now this guy's life is ruined. He can't get his teacher job back.
Nah, if the charges are dropped, why can't he get his job back?
Because of the reputation. He's saying that, you know, he was off of work for a year, so every time he goes to basically get another job, they ask him, why were you off for a year? And then he has to explain the case. And then the student union and the teachers don't want the liability just because there could be a situation. You know, he would have to find somebody that really just wants to take him on his merit and take that chance. But would you take that chance?
Yeah, if the charges was dropped, I guess. That's what you got to kind of do. That's how we got to operate, you know?
It's hard to operate like that because...
It is. It's super hard to operate. But if we don't, then we got chaos.
Right.
You know? We got a bunch of, like, people working off of feelings and vibes, you know? Which would be awesome if everybody was on the same wavelength and we could all vibe together. That's awesome. But we're not. We're on different wavelengths, and they corral all that crazy cat shit.
You know what it is,
They give you laws, and they give you, like, things to follow, so it's just easier to get along in life. Now, you don't follow every law. You don't, obviously. And there's gray areas to everything. But part of that is not having sex with somebody under the age of 18. Like, boom. Just don't do it.
But so
just don't do it.
We know that's wrong, but let's talk about the culture of why people like that get away. It's kind of like the Catholic Church, right?
Okay.
They were covering up a lot of things because they wanted to protect the reputation of the church, right? This is going on within teachers' unions, and this is why he didn't get rehired, because they're trying to uphold a reputation and they don't want to deal with people.
But there's a major difference between covering up when something is bad and doing bad and not giving people a chance when you find out that it wasn't bad. Like when if charges was dropped or whatever, then that's it, you know? With the quote unquote Catholic Church, whatever that means, I'm not even sure what that means anymore. Covers up stuff. There was terrible stuff happening to children all the time, like at an alarmingly high rate. Yeah. And they were just moving people after they were found to be guilty to another place.
But they have to, because they're trying to protect.
What?
They have in their mind they have to, because they're trying to protect their reputation and their jobs, basically their security, their life. It's completely wrong. But that's what's going on with the teachers union. I'm going to play.
But it's not though. It didn't happen. If it didn't happen, right? Or we don't know if it happened or didn't.
No,
happen
it is happening. That's what I'm
saying.
about.
With the teacher dude, like if the police and whatever is saying it didn't happen, I don't know if it did or didn't happen. But again, we have to operate under. If we're all going to just coexist here, then we all have to sort of like pay our taxes and live by the same laws and stand in lines at the movie theater, and you know what I mean? Like just try to like do everything you need to do to get along in the world. And one of those things is just sort of like, all right, they you know, they're not prosecuting them, so we can either try to get it. I don't know what they could do. I don't know the situation that well at all, but it just seems like if the prosecutors aren't going to do anything, then the charges were dropped. Then can I get my job? Like, what's the problem? I'm looking at it as him being innocent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm looking at him as me being him.
They have to protect themselves and their reputation.
If the charges were dropped, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Again, I don't know what happened. I don't know who did what or whatever. But if I'm him and I'm innocent, right? I'm looking at me being him being innocent. And because there's some, I mean, I don't know what everybody has said, but there's little asshole third graders, just like there's asshole 30-year-olds. You know what I mean? That'll say some shit because they're a little smarter, and they might just say some shit to get you caught up because they catch on. Maybe their home life, they watch a lot of adult shit, and they say, wow, I don't like Mr. Thompson very much, and I bet you if I say he was touching me or something, I can get him caught up. And they're talking in the playground, and they're just like, yo. Then him and little Timmy or whatever is just like, hey, we can get Mr. Thompson caught up. Let's just say this, right? So that could have happened too, and he could be completely innocent. Apparently, the prosecutors felt like something they didn't have enough. They wouldn't whatever. But because he should get his job back. That's my point.
Yeah, but he's not, because the culture of trying to protect the bigger. Yeah, you're right in just a black and white type of world, but we don't live in that world. We live in a world with a lot of assets and a lot of integrity and reputation to protect.
Yeah, man. And so if he's truly innocent and he really likes being a teacher, I suggest going to a lawyer's office and suing them.
He ain't got no money though. He just spent his whole pension or reserve living off
I think he's
house
got a
arrest
good
for a
chance
year
of
and a
winning.
half.
I think he's got a good chance of winning.
So there's a story about teachers unions and what's worse, the church or the teachers union?
This is from Wikipedia and Investors.com.
Wikipedia?
Not to
Is
mention
that real?
my beautiful self, Kimberly.
Is that real?
Education. For
Is that a
a
real
parent,
thing?
the headline couldn't be more alarming. Teacher of the Year accused of molesting student, charged with 5 felonies. It's a story that, tragically, is all too common and all too underreported. Why? We've all heard of the Catholic Church child abuse scandal that's still regularly covered, 20 to 40 years after much of the abuse took place. It too was tragic, and acknowledged as such by the Church, which has taken action to prevent its ever happening again. The same can't be said of unionized public education, where child abuse appears to be rampant, often with little done about it and with teachers' unions largely silent. It gets little national media attention, certainly not on the scale that the Church scandal did. More often than not, teachers charged for having sex with a student are union-selected Teacher of the Year and get put on paid administrative leave. We can't say this teacher is guilty. We can say, sadly, it's a story that's become distressingly familiar. Yet virtually no sense of urgency is behind it. And of the little media coverage, it's mostly local. According to Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey, 275 U.S. teachers have been accused of abuse since January 1st. And that's only those who've been accused. By comparison, the Catholic League estimates 7 credible sexual abuse cases each year for 40,000 priests.
Damn.
The most widely cited study available,
Go
conducted
back.
in
I'm sorry.
2004 by the U.S. Education Department.
According to the Washington Post?
The most widely cited study available, conducted in 2004 by the U.S. Education Department, estimated that 1 in 10 students will be sexually abused by a teacher during their years in school. 1 in 10. A February 2012 Slate.com article asked, how many kids are sexually abused by their teachers? The alarming answer, probably millions. It's an epidemic. If so, why the silence? For one, teachers' unions don't want the truth to complicate contract talks and tarnish teachers' carefully cultivated image with the public. Administrators say it's almost impossible to fire a teacher. For another, based on news coverage,
she's basically trying to draw the narrative of that priests used to have this respect within the community, like they would never do something like that, and now they fell, right? And the same thing is going on with the teachers, but we are not seeing it, or we're not seeing them vilified because the teachers union try to keep it hush hush because they're trying to promote this narrative of the teacher as the safest person, but it happens way more than the church, they're saying. So that's the conspiracy.
2004,
right? And there's an act she's going to talk about that they passed because of this.
in opinion polls,
Try to help
the
with
media believe
background
public
checks and
teachers
stuff.
are saints and religion is bad. So while a church sex abuse scandal gets covered, a school scandal gets covered up. Toomey is pushing a bill, the Protecting Students from Sexual and Violent Predators Act, that would require states that get federal funds to do a background check on anyone who has access to children. It's a good bill that passed the House unanimously. And the bill was introduced into the United States House of Representatives during the 113th United States Congress. It passed in the House on October 22, 2013. The Protecting Students from Sexual and Violent Predators Act would amend the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 to require each state educational agency, that receives funds under that act to 1. Require criminal background checks for each school
So you think that back then that was like mandatory and they really didn't have anything in place, and that's why they had to pass that act, because overwhelmingly there were so many cases going on and people were just slipping through the cracks, you know what I mean?
I think, I don't know why that is necessarily, but I remember like last year in France, they finally had to pass a law that says you can't like sleep with underage kids, because there was an actual law. I don't know if it was the town in France or whatever, but there was an actual law. But you just assume, like, you know, don't do that. I assume at a certain point somebody had to write down, hey man,
you know what
let's not kill people.
Means you make an ass out of you and me.
An umption. Assumption. But yeah, it's just, but it's weird. It's like, I gotta tell you not to kill people and make that a law and make it punishable if you don't listen to what we're saying, you know? I got to tell you not to sleep with a child.
Well, people, like I was saying earlier, people will push this stuff and they will always protect either their kids or the predator. Like I was going to show this before, but now it plays perfectly. Okay. So this is both sides of the family, right? Mm-hmm. And right before the court, because the teachers, she got sentenced to 22 years. So her family's like, oh, that's too much. And they were trying to tell the victim's family there was a young boy, like, oh, but he liked it and all that stuff. And so this is it right in front of your face.
It's like, yeah, it was sex. Of course he liked it. I mean, for the most part, if you're a 15-year-old boy and some girls like doing shit to you, you're gonna like it.
The real battle started outside of that courtroom. Both sides getting into a feisty exchange after the judge decided he would not ease up on the 22-year sentence for former teacher Jennifer Fichter. ABC Action News reporter Ryan Raish was right there in the middle of it all.
You have no clue. Today, just feet outside the courtroom, tempers flare between Jennifer Fichter's mother and the victim's parents.
Is your son alive? Is he alive? Is yours? Is he alive? Your daughter is. My daughter is. Stop it. You taking my life away.
The two had to be separated by other family. The tension came after an emotional day in court. The former Lakeland teacher who admitted to having sex with 3 students found out the judge will not give her a break on the heavy 22-year sentence he handed down a year and a half ago.
Wow.
The parents of one of the teen boys pushed for a harsh sentence, and that seemed to anger Fichter's family.
We had to make a decision.
Good. Well, I'm glad you can live with your decision.
Okay. And I did because your daughter put us in that predicament.
You can live with it.
These fireworks appear to mark the end of a story that's gripped the headlines for years. When she finally admitted last year that indeed she did have sex with her students, she expressed deep remorse, but few expected the 22-year punishment.
Was it at the
Once
same
the judge
time,
makes that initial...
What?
I'm saying 3 students, was at the same time, or was it like...
Different
3
times.
different students?
Yeah, 3 different students. And she got 22 years for that. Think it's harsh?
I mean...
It's a lot
sure,
of time, huh?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah?
That's a long time.
If it was a male teacher?
It's a quarter of your life.
Same thing for the male teacher?
Yeah, I mean, 22 years is a long time. If, again, you know, we're talking about, like... It's a long time.
It's a long time, man. It is 3 kids.
That's all I can say. It's a long time, but you got to go to jail, man. And if it's 3 kids, hey.
What's that, 3 divided by 22?
3 multiplied? You want to multiply those or divide those?
Well, per each kid, right? So was that 7 years?
7, yeah, 7 and some change. Dang, man. How you gonna Dang, man, 3? I don't know, man.
But the thing is that I'm gonna show next that
it's
it
a lot
doesn't
of time,
matter
but
if you're a
sense.
female, black or white, whatever race. It doesn't matter if you're a male, black or white. It happens. It's happening a lot. So maybe 22 years is a lot because it happens so much. This is another.
No, man. You know what? No, I can't. No, it's shocking because it's such a big number, right? And it makes you say, damn, that's a quarter of someone's life if they have a good life, a great life. And they, you know what I mean? If they survive every possible bad thing, it's a quarter of your life, basically, right? And all that and then you stop it for what? And yeah, man, you can't be fucking kids, man. You just can't do it. Oh, well. You're lonely. Oh, well. They're cute. Oh, well.
And
they're mature. They're mature for their age. Oh,
and
well.
You took this job. You're a teacher.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying at the beginning about the kid, the 14-year-old, like getting married and getting pregnant. And you're at a position where you've had more experience in life. You can speak to somebody. You can trick somebody into thinking and feeling things that they may not necessarily think if you had just waited 4 years until they're 19, 18 and presented yourself then. If then it's all good. You know what I mean? I really don't have a problem with like, they used to be my student, but now they're, you know what I mean? Because now you at least give them the time to like make a constructive, smart decision. 14 years old, boy or girl, you don't know what the hell's going on inside your body. Just firing off all crazy. It's like an amusement park inside of you with hormones and drugs and alcohol, if that's your bag or whatever, just emotions, you know? Now, like, this older girl guy is, like, showing you all the attention and speaking about something other than, you know, G.I. Joe, I guess, in my day, or Fortnite in this day. I don't know. Sounding old right now. But, you know, talking better than what the boys around you, the girls around you are talking about now, the dumb shit, you know? And obviously, they got more experience, so, yeah, it's going to be awesome, you know? If like they want to. Now we're not talking about like forcible rape right now. We're talking about like relationship. This is what we're talking about, like students sleeping with teachers when it's consensual in a way, when they're not like not saying no or whatever. But still, it's wrong because you can manipulate a 14-year-old because they don't know shit, man. You don't know nothing. You don't know, even if you want to, whatever that means, right? You don't want to. If you think about it really and sort of like your older self could send you little emails or whatever, you wouldn't do it. I don't think so.
This is a crazy story. This is the...
Tonight, a student is sharing with us what kind of teacher Tanisha Dixon is in the classroom after her arrest.
Tanisha Dixon, huh?
Happening outside of school.
So we showed the white lady. Now this is an African-American lady.
I'm here at Anclote High School where the sheriff's office tells us
because we're multicultural here. Everyone's committing crimes.
Messaging with a student to meet up for sex, and now school officials are telling parents to come forward if they have any suspicions whatsoever about their student's interaction with her.
I'm calling this evening with some disturbing information.
A recorded message sent out to parents bearing the bad news. 25-year-old Tanisha Dixon, a teacher at Anclote High School, has been arrested, charged with having sex several times last year with a 17-year-old student, including at least one encounter here at Sims Park in Newport Richey.
I was shocked. Like, just to see her picture, like her mugshot on Facebook.
This student says the news spread like wildfire at basketball practice tonight. The rumors had reportedly been going on for a while.
There were rumors, and I didn't believe them.
But now she says she has no choice. Well, no one
damn, when they come to your door, though,
tonight,
that's a little intrusive.
I mean, with no red flags in her record.
You got to get the story.
The only reason I don't have a problem with it is because it's a risk.
In working with students at
what do you mean?
So, like, when I look at stuff like that, where it's like, that's very intrusive, right?
When this is the reporter coming to your door to get the story, knocking on the door.
Well, stuff like that in general, right? I look for some sort of like balance in that. So if it's just something like getting on the internet and being able to like mess with you, that kind of intrusive, right? That sucks because there's no, on the other end, the hacker's end or whatever, there's no risk, there's no whatever. These people are putting in work, quote unquote, because knocking on a door gets your head blown off. Like that could be the end of your day just by being that intrusive and sticking your neck out there. So
because they have a little bit of balls, it's okay. Yeah,
you know it. But they should respect. Once somebody says go away or whatever, you should respect it and be gone. But in the intrusiveness of like knocking on the door, it's like, well, there's a chance you're not coming back after that. So kudos in that way. Okay, good job, man. I wouldn't do it. It's like this person's good. You know, he's accused of killing 7 people, but nobody's able to get the story. Go knock on his door and see what's up. It's like, nah, I don't know if I'm gonna be knocking on a person like that's door.
So I was gonna show one more African American lady. The reason I'm showing this story is because this one's she's a teacher, but she is having sex with this other underage kid that's in jail. So he's not in jail. I mean, he's not in teacher. He's not in school. He's in jail.
He's in juvenile detention?
Yeah, but it's...
So how's she having sex with him? It's like, because there's a class in there or whatever?
No, they have a relationship going. Let me tell the story before I fumble it. Play the story.
Happening now, a Port St. Lucie elementary school teacher just left court after going before a judge for an alleged sexual relationship with a teenager. News Channel 5's Christina Noche joins us live from the St. Lucie County Courthouse.
And she has a relationship with a teenager.
Christina?
Not her student.
Quotatia Jones was charged this morning for allegedly having an inappropriate relationship with a minor. She asked the judge to be released on her own recognizance so she could return to work. And as you can see here from Mariposa Elementary School's website,
no, we can't see because it's a stupid ass shot.
But the school isn't letting her come back just yet. Deputies say Jones talked dirty and had sex with a 17-year-old boy who was in juvenile detention. The judge this morning said the evidence against Jones was quite strong. Deputies say Jones made repeated visits to a teen offender currently in juvenile lockup. Deputies watched surveillance videos.
She likes young bad boys.
And says they have quotes that the teen said they had sex between 4 and 6 times. Now, the school superintendent
How did that happen
told
inside
us
of the
Jones
fucking
will be
thing?
removed from the classroom and a
Well, they had an
substitute will be
ongoing
hired.
relationship.
When district staff members return from winter break on January 2nd, they will begin reviewing Jones's case. Now, Jones
Why is she in there with a whole bunch of dudes, though?
They're probably like on the other side.
will remain on the school's payroll until the school board takes action. Their next board meeting is on January 14th. Now, so far, there are no allegations that Jones did anything wrong with her own students at Mariposa Elementary School. If Jones posts bail, she will have a curfew and was ordered to stay away from the alleged victim, who is currently in the St. Lucie County Jail awaiting trial for several of his own charges.
Yo, shout out to young Playboy, though.
Okay, so I will maybe probably get in trouble for this from some people, but I'll probably like amend the rule to say if you out there committing crimes,
you should have sex with
you can, you know, if you out there like robbing people,
depending on the crime, you gotta rob or like
you get no like crime,
cars,
not candy and shit,
right,
but like you
crime.
crime. You out in the corner selling drugs and shit, like risking your life.
Allowed
Again, there's a risk there. You're allowed to,
So yeah, my shorty works at the elementary school.
For real.
I just got out of there like 5 years ago.
Again, my original I guess complaint was the experience and the like the wherewithal and the like the knowledge, I guess, of life to make the decision whether to really do this or don't do this. If you're out there committing those kind of crimes, you got some experience in life, dog. You've seen a lot of shit. You've probably seen a lot of sex and had a lot of sex already, so you know what you like. You know what I mean?
This
like
is your side chick.
It's not the same thing. You know what I mean? It's not the same thing.
At 17.
Yeah.
Oh man, only in Florida.
No, for real.
Only in Florida.
Quotatia was that lady's name, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Don't quote me on that.
Don't quote him.
So I'm going down the line. This is white guy. So we've seen the white lady, we've seen the black lady, and here's the white guy. And usually they're coaches for some reason.
It was one thing when these 2 teachers were actually pulled out of the class.
Oh, this is 2 teachers, and my bad, this is 2 teachers in and out of doing it.
Classroom, but now to see them face both of these serious charges, well, that's really stunning for parents. One of these teachers teaches math. He's well known and actually was also a student here.
Oh my God, that's problematic.
Tori Benyard's daughter attends Ocoee High.
If you like go to that school, right, in high school, and then come back, you're in high school again, especially if you're like an immature kind of guy or person or whatever.
Maybe you have a chip on your shoulder, you didn't get that pussy.
You didn't get it. Now you can. Oh man, that's problematic, bro.
And you got a homeboy, like you guys are in cahoots doing it together.
I'm sorry. Remember how I had a bias against men before? I look at male teachers different, entirely different. I just do. Maybe not in high school, but as an elementary school, like male.
Was this before or after you had the girls?
before the girls, before when I just had a baby, when I just would go to, my son's kindergarten and I'd see, oh, that's Mr. I forgot his name. He's really nice. And I just look at him. He looks like a video game programmer or something.
Like the guy that got the charges dropped?
Just inside all the time, glasses, stubble, messy hair, looks like Hot Pockets and
you know what's a dead giveaway?
Tab.
You don't have your own kids.
Dead giveaway, huh? Don't have your own kids.
That's a dead giveaway.
Maybe he's got something going on with him, and I'm just like, I don't know. Or really like handsome elementary school guys. I'm just like, I don't know. It's not for me.
Handsome elementary school guys.
Just the look, man. When it's just, I get it. It's a vibe that doesn't make any sense.
It's a vibe,
and I don't really, I'm not saying it's true.
George Clooney ass looking motherfuckers.
No, I said handsome, not like. I mean like young Tom Cruise. You know what I mean?
The story was trying to play itself.
Are now charged with sex crimes against a minor teen, has her thinking about her own child's well-being.
It's scary and it's like bothersome. You know what I mean? Because you send them here hoping that they're safe.
26-year-old Ryan Kirkpatrick and 27-year-old Chad Michael Coy made separate court appearances on felony charges of committing a sex act with a 16 or 17-year-old child. Court papers note that the men were in a position of school authority. For just under 2 years, the district says Coy was part of the school's instructional staff for research and critical thinking.
Everyone thought he was innocent.
Students say Kirkpatrick was a well-liked math teacher who has a legacy here at Ocoee High.
Kirkpatrick was always like a really nice teacher, and he actually used to go to this school too. He was one of the first teachers to come back and work at the school as a teacher.
In a message to parents this morning, the school emphasized that neither man had had interaction with students since being pulled from the classroom months ago.
Both of these teachers were arrested within the past week. Again, they have not taught at our school since November 1st, 2016.
When they send out that message, like you get the text or the message, like, hey, there's a school predator, he's fucking your kids. Beep.
No, it's not like that. Yeah. They do it as nicely as possible to try to break the news to you all at once. Yeah, there's a guy out there trying to do some stuff with your kids. Man, I tell you, I don't know what would happen.
So this guy is like an ROTC teacher. So not only is he a teacher, he's a military vet. And it shows no color. It shows no... Everybody's doing it. Everyone's having sex with your kids, ladies and gentlemen.
Not everybody. Just it happens a lot in Florida.
Criminal ROTC teacher was arrested, accused of having a sexual relationship with a student. All new at 5, what we learned when we dug into his background. Tonight, his attorney tells us he is a decorated Marine veteran. Good evening, I'm Greg Warman.
And I'm Martha Sagalski. The district says he's worked at Lake Howell High School for a couple of years. Channel 9's Jeff Love Coolidge is live outside Lake Howell right now. And Jeff, you've been working all day to find out more about this teacher.
And Martha, the school district says that ROTC instructor Brian Teat has only worked here at Lake Howell High School since 2015. They say he's had no incidents in his personnel file until his arrest last night. Investigators with the Seminole County Sheriff's Office say the relationship between ROTC instructor Brian Tate and the teenage victim started out earlier this month. According to the arrest report, the victim told investigators their personal conversations eventually led to kissing, touching, and sexual activity.
There's no allegation that any of the illegal activity happened at school.
According to the victim, a lot of times it's these young girls, maybe they don't have a father figure in their life.
I don't know. I will never, I don't think I'll ever put it on the girls. You know what I mean?
No, not that it's
not put it on
fault,
them,
but
not put it on
I'm
them, but
giving
even
the context of why they would be attracted to an older man that's a military man. Like maybe it's something about the presence of, like, oh, this guy's got it together.
Hard.
Never had
It's super hard to gauge that. You know what I mean? You'd have to know a lot of things about the person. I would think. I don't know. I guess maybe not. I bet you there's some behavior.
You heard of daddy issues, right?
Yeah. I've heard that before. You don't have a strong male figure in your life, so you go looking for some sort of male attention.
Yeah.
To like feel that.
I think it's all the ego. It's like when we went back to the Ocoee people, like maybe they didn't get what they wanted out of life in high school, so they went back to try to look for that. It's a psychological thing. Maybe some of the women that I read about, they feel, inferior, and some charming student gives them attention. They didn't have it at the and it's someone that they could kind of control in a sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. That's why we call them predators. That's why it's wrong.
Insecurity, overcompensation for insecurity.
That's why you get in trouble no matter what, even if it is 22 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not. You just don't do it, man. And again, even if you're whatever her name was at the beginning with her boyfriend.
Mary Kay Letourneau. Thank you. Good job. Huh? Yeah. Winning.
I'm by winning.
You know what I'm saying? I win here, I win there. It would be better if even if said person was going to end up with you, just give them that time to build up that experience to make a more, I don't want to say educated, but a better decision. They're more fit to make a decision, at least till then, I would think. Let them get out of school. Let them stop doing trigonometry and going to pep rallies. And you know what I mean? Yeah. Let them be able to get into a movie by themselves and all this other stuff before they can really make that decision. And, even better, wait till they're 21 and buy them their first alcohol, and then y'all can have a great time.
Is that take creepy? Advantage of them while they're drunk?
Yeah, man. I went like, boom. But the last part was a joke.
Go there? You ready to go there?
Last part was a joke.
Let's go. There you go. Yes. Are you guys ready for the creeps? It's about that time. Just when you thought we couldn't get any creepier,
these are the bad ones.
These are they're all bad, but these are the really bad ones.
What do you mean like young?
These guys deserve a special place in hell. A nice room that's hotter than the outside room.
Gray area.
No. Like this is a place where we need a place for them in hell that's hotter than hell.
Okay.
It's a room that is hotter than the outside. You get to hell, that shit is mad hot, but then you get sent to a room that's hotter.
The one that's hot.
The one down the hall, so you get to like think about you're about to get hotter.
The AC's broke.
This is what we're sending you, fuck boys. All these people, especially this one. So you can kind of understand that, like, okay, the guy's 17. We made some arguments that, like, he was attracted to the teacher. And, okay, these people are kids. Yes, they can be manipulated, but in some respects, they are of some type of right mind, right? They don't have any disabilities.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you find children with disabilities, and you find fuck boys and fuck girls that fuck with people with disabilities, they are a special case of fuck boy. Because you are really taking advantage. You are automatically taking advantage of these people anyway, but this is just the level.
Yeah, like I said, no gray area, no question in this one. Even though there's no gray area in the other one either. Oh.
Horrific attack on a man with special needs. The surprising job that the suspect held for years, which gave him direct access to children with developmental delays. Good evening, everyone. I'm Paul LeGrone. Jamison is
the guy that
and I'm Wendy
prayed,
Ryan.
got
Thanks
this
for joining
job.
us. Tampa police say they're still looking into that suspect's past as a teacher at a special needs school to search for more possible victims.
Our Clifton French joining us live tonight in South Tampa, where this assault happening. Cliff, the victim was originally reported as missing.
Yeah, police say that his mother reported him missing, and hours later, officers found him outside of this apartment complex where that suspect lives. A former teacher at a school for special needs, now accused of a heinous crime against a disabled adult.
We felt that this was a danger to our community to have somebody out there that would prey on an individual like this.
The police report describing unthinkable crimes involving drugs, pornography, and sexual battery. Tampa police say the victim is a 23-year-old man with the mental capacity of a child in elementary school. Initially, he told police he was fine, but later he walked to this gas station and had a clerk call the police. That's when he gave them a detailed story.
The victim felt bad. He didn't know if what he'd done is wrong.
Sergeant Lisa Parashis says 53-year-old James Beaver talked him into getting into his car and took him to his apartment.
Based on some of his ability to make decisions, he complied with what an adult was telling him to do.
Inside, Beaver gave him detailed directions.
He told him to take a shower, brush your teeth. At some point in the evening, he gave him some soup, he gave him something to drink.
He then walked him through smoking meth, showed him pornography, and forced himself on the victim. Inside of this apartment, police found meth, paraphernalia, and other disturbing items.
What raises alarms for me is that he was a teacher in the school system here in Hillsborough County.
Tonight we're learning Beaver worked at 4 different schools in Hillsborough County, mainly in areas of special needs. His longest tenure was about a decade here at Mendez Exceptional Center. Police just now starting their investigation into his past, searching for any more victims who he may or may not have worked with. And tonight I'm learning through these arrest documents that Beaver knew this man had developmental delays and admitted to doing all of these things with the victim. His argument to police, though, is that this is still an adult and it was all consensual.
Bitch, are you dumb, stupid?
What the fuck?
What? Okay, so how come? Well, I guess we don't know this, but like, where was the people supposed to take care of this guy?
He is.
What do you mean? If he's 5 to 6 years old, then how?
He's the guy that was taking care. He took him out to school and brought him to his apartment.
No, he said he convinced him to get in his car.
Right, because he was working at the facility. Oh. He's like, come home with me.
But not from the facility. He like picked him up from walking home or some shit like that.
But he knew him from the facility. He prayed, and he's probably been praying allegedly on more people.
Other ones, yeah.
And it's like, you don't just jump into meth and sex, bro. This is something you calculated.
Yeah, man.
And how dare you say that it was consensual?
It's like, but he's an adult. What a piece of shit, dog. That is...
These people exist in Florida.
Yeah, for sure. They exist all over the world, but they very much... I don't know if they like to congregate or if this is like the vacation spot for
warm
like...
out here. Meth's at a good price.
Man, meth... Oh, that's what I'm saying. What if this guy was allowed to smoke that in the front on the steps? His apartment. Legally.
He would be in jail because he's a pedophile. If he's not killing anybody, he just wants to smoke a little meth, not molesting anybody, let him hit a little meth in his basement and on the side.
It's just deteriorating his brain.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
To make it better, though. Let's just make sure that he's not affecting you. So this is another mother. This is a 14-year-old girl. This guy's a teacher and a pastor.
About a pastor accused of raping a teenager and the investigation into possibly more victims. ABC Action News reporter Clifton French live outside
Damn, French get all the bad stories.
Church on East Lake Avenue.
Yeah.
Cliff, you learned that this pastor is also
put some respect on my name.
Clifton French, get out there and get those pedophiles off the street.
According to parishioners, that he's been here for 6 or 7 years. He's the pastor here, but we're also learning that he's been a teacher with Hillsborough Community College for more than a decade.
In my father's house, that says.
The details of the case too disturbing to repeat.
And they had to blur the whole goddamn document. Holy crap.
A Tampa police report describing a 63-year-old man forcing himself on a teenage girl.
In this case, it seems very clear that that the teen definitely resisted and made it very clear to him that that what he was doing was wrong.
The man accused is not only the longtime pastor of a local church, David Carson is also a longtime math teacher at Hillsborough Community College.
He allegedly's got
both
a pedo
positions of authority over young people, both now under the microscope of detectives.
We always check into that to see if this is not an isolated circumstance.
Tonight we know the crime he's being charged with didn't happen at the church and did not involve one of his students. While police say there's no evidence that he's done this to anyone else, the investigation tonight continues.
That was crazy.
I think it's also important to add that another adult did witness at least a part of this alleged attack. Hillsborough Community College tells me
Clifton, that's a very important thing to add.
As soon as they discovered this arrest. I'm reporting live in Tampa tonight. Clifton French, ABC Action News.
I'd like to know more about that part. Why wasn't that story another minute long and told us where the other adult and exactly what that person was doing? Just left that off the table, Clifton. Ready to bury that shit. Sorry.
Nah.
I want to know. I want to know more. Like,
Well, you want to research it?
nah, we ain't got time. Go deeper into how freaking another person using God as a backdrop try to stick his dick in something that didn't want to get. Like, it's so crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna get caught.
And it's so deep because not only am I your educator, I'm the guy that's, God's okay with this.
You're gonna get caught. How are you not gonna get caught?
Because God's okay with this in
How
his
are you
mind.
not gonna get caught? Like, cheating on your girlfriend, right? There's already a list of things you got to do to make that work. Let's say your girlfriend is smart, somewhat smart, whatever. Not completely oblivious to the world. You know what I mean? Then you got to do a list of things to make that work. And that's just doing something that's taboo. Now we're talking about rape. No, let's not even talk about that yet. Let's talk about the gray area we were talking about before, when the young person, takes a liking to you and remind me of George Clooney. You remind me of George Clooney. What's how you doing? It's like, no, right?
Right.
So there's that level of it. Then you got to figure out how to keep that quiet and keep that going and keep them entertained, and then not let this person spill over. That's right. So now we're talking about actual. You're never going to get away with that. First of all, you're never going to get away with any of that.
This guy's 60 years old, so he's a professional at getting away with this shit.
Nah, probably never. Probably lied his way out of a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? But didn't really. Probably got busted.
This can't be the first time.
Can't be the first time. Or he's just so far gone at this point.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, because at a certain age, it's just like...
It's Bill Cosby.
It's Bill Cosby, What do you mean? Yeah, I did. But what are you saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was the culture back then.
No, it's not. No, it's not rape. I just put a little something in there, make her... you know what I mean? Just it's like, no, bro, that's terrible and that's wrong. But it's just, to me, it's so crazy because you're never going to get away with it. Just like I think it's crazy people drive 30 hours to get here because they're talking to some officer, some FBI or whatever. I think it's FBI that does it. Like, that bust these guys. I'm like, what are you thinking, dog? People aren't selling, or I guess people are selling their daughters and whatnot. That's what makes it so terrible, that it's believable that somebody's going to come that far. But it never ceases to amaze me. It's like, I knew this was bad. I knew I was going to get arrested.
Well, what about the guys that get arrested, get all these things, but slip through the cracks and continue to do it? This is a story of a guy that's a teacher, been accused of sexual battery and abuse, and was still at schools.
Trouble we're now uncovering in a Pasco County school coach's past, and a growing fury from parents.
Oh, Pasco
Good evening,
County.
everyone. I'm Jameis Mueller.
And I'm Wendy Ryan. Thanks for joining us. Our I-team, the first to break this sex scandal in Zephyrhills High School on Friday at 6 o'clock. Well, tonight we're uncovering new investigations involving Coach Samuel Walker.
Investigator Jared Holbrook is here with the new details he's discovered. Jared.
Well, Jameson, Wendy, there's a history with this school employee having unprofessional contact with a female student. We found the employee.
Looks like a professional s'mores.
He was previously warned and reprimanded.
It does.
Meanwhile, parents
Got
are
that
raising
paper, though.
serious questions
Always
about
holding
how
that
the
paper.
school district handled this
No
case.
reason to be holding that paper.
This is horrible.
Very surprising.
It's very despicable, disgusting.
Parents of students at Zephyrhills High School reacting after learning deputies arrested the head coach of girls JV basketball, Samuel Walker. He is accused of unlawful sexual activity with a 17-year-old female student. Walker is also the school's student discipline instructional assistant. The I-team first told you about the investigation last week. Tonight, another disturbing detail. A letter in his file shows the school warned Walker multiple times about unprofessional student contact in the past. In this letter of reprimand dated this past March, the school principal states Walker admitted to knowing a female student left campus for lunch and she brought lunch back to him. There is also a reference to him texting and making phone calls to the student. Some of the text conversations were happening as late as 9 o'clock at night and on weekends, and even during the student's class time. Take a look at this line from the principal, quote, "I am particularly concerned because we have already met regarding unprofessional student contact in the past." The principal writes that she warned Walker to
This
stay
is
away
the second
from the
warning.
student.
That's her
The
fault.
I-team also confirms Walker had 6 outstanding warrants out of Hillsborough County for sexual battery on a juvenile.
6?
All 6 offenses involve the same
Outstanding
17-year-old
warrants?
girl from this recent
How'd you get
arrest.
a job?
Deputies tell us between February and April,
I can't even get a
the
loan at
sex
Rent-A-Center
offenses happened
with
in a
outstanding
motel
warrants.
room, the suspect's car, and on the roadside. Parents we spoke with say they were never notified until after our report aired last week.
I wish they would inform us more too when things happen.
Just to let you know, your basketball
parents
coach
are
has
even claiming
6
that they-
outstanding warrants. It's like, what?
And he's the JV.
And he's the safety and safety coordinator or whatever.
Discipline coordinator.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, no, I put that one definitely on the not the principal, whoever's in charge of hiring
culture,
and firing.
like the story that Kimberly was saying about the student union covering up.
No, man. But you know what? I will say that this is sort of saying it happens, like you were saying earlier. You know, just because it happens it isn't right, like I was saying. But because of especially in Florida, the low, like there's not a lot of teachers or not a lot of qualified teachers.
And it doesn't pay good.
And it doesn't pay well, so it's the turnovers. So at a certain point, it's like...
They're asking for it.
Well,
They're asking for it.
They're asking for what?
Like if there was better paying jobs for teachers and
Oh,
a certain...
yeah. No, I'm not saying the type of people necessarily that you get because it's low. What I'm saying is...
Yeah.
What I'm saying, not what you're just saying, is that they don't fire them necessarily for everything that they maybe should get fired for. It's like, I need them to be here. So even if you're not a good teacher, you're at least a good babysitter. Like you could at least watch these group of people and hopefully they don't stab themselves.
We're gonna give your old title.
You know, so I'm just being devil's advocate as far as why this guy wasn't fired. You know, in that I shouldn't be devil's advocate at all for that because like fuck, that's 6 outstanding warrants, dog. You ain't supposed to be teaching people. You're supposed to be teaching nobody nothing.
Sexual, not even for like
in charge of safety,
but it's like sexual
battery.
Yeah, battery. 6 outstanding warrants.
You're done. I think you're good. I don't think teaching is something you should do because you don't teach people stuff. You should do something else.
Oh man, well these are just more cases. Like I said, this happens so much in Florida that Thompson texted me this idea about, hey, let's do teacher sex. And I was like, oh, yeah, let's do it. And then I'm like, oh, that's going to definitely be like a
I don't think I wrote the word
thing.
Teacher sex, just so we're clear.
And so I was like, oh, there's a lot of females, getting arrested right now. And I was like, there's definitely going to be some dudes. But it's everybody.
It's a lot, yeah.
And it's everybody.
Yeah, old, young,
any race.
Non-consensual.
Male, female.
Disabled,
like that's the saddest thing to me. And the ones that are like really young, and it's clearly rape. It's like such a sad thing to just know that is happening.
500 last year arrested.
Yeah, and that's according to some. That's like nobody has the real numbers, because it's a statistic that it's going to be impossible to get because a lot of kids don't even talk about it.
I think a lot of statistics in general are really hard to the margin for error of those I think can be pretty large.
It's like a thing for smart people or for what's it called for not educational but
analytical.
What the people that are just into debating and stuff like that.
Okay, debaters.
Yeah, but it's more like college,
argumentative,
college,
for philosophers.
Kind of, it's a word like that. It's
pontificators
for. Yeah, I'll figure it out for another episode because I. But the point is, it's just to build a narrative amongst a certain class of people that basically, bring about rules and laws, and it's,
Mm-hmm. It enforces a point that you're trying to make.
Exactly.
And like I said, but the margin for error, a lot of that stuff can be pretty big just because you're asking a segment of the population instead of every single person.
Exactly, and it's impossible to do that because everybody's different. Everybody's going to experience. A lot of people that get molested don't even know what's going on until
later.
Yep, and they realize, hey, that was wrong. That shouldn't have been done to me. You know.
I almost got jumped, but it was a totally innocent, non-innocent thing. I was like, how old was I? I was pretty young. I can't remember exactly. It was elementary school, and I was probably like 8 years old. And I was at this birthday party with my parents someplace, and they had a group of kids, and there was an older girl who kept saying shit I didn't really understand, but it was like, man, if you were older, shit like that, right? And I didn't even get what that meant. I don't know if she's gonna beat me up.
Innuendo, yeah.
Like, is she gonna like, I don't know why she want to hurt me. Like, sounded bad, but it was like, you know. So then at a certain point, they called me in there, and it was all girls, and they like the bigger, she was older, so she was bigger, not like fat, but like taller. You know what I mean? She was like probably like I have no idea.
Stocky woman.
I have no idea. She's probably like 13, 14. I don't know. So she just pushed me in the closet, and they had me in the closet, and all the girls were, and they were just like kissing me.
Damn.
And I was trying to like get them off. You know what I mean? Because to me, it was like a wrestling thing. I wasn't even thinking about girls.
Wipe me down. I'm on. The little
Right?
Boosie play in the background.
You know what I mean? But it didn't feel like that. Because like, it felt like I was getting held down and attacked. I didn't think about girls like that.
And you're not, as a young boy at that time, you're not even allowed to really feel that that's a bad thing, but it is.
I don't know. I just got out. When I got out, I sort of got up, you know. I remember kicking, but trying not to hurt anybody because there were like younger girls there too, like 6, you know, when I was 8. And there was like an older girl, and everybody's like kissing me, and I'm like, I busted out of that shit. And I went back and just sat by my folks the rest of the party, basically. Or no, you know what? I'm mixing 2 parties up. Sat by, this was older, a little bit older, probably like 12. So she was a little bit older than that, you know. Anyway. But it was wrong, right? But wrong. I didn't like it. I didn't want it to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never been molested or felt like was taken advantage of.
Yeah, me neither.
So it's kind of hard to really like understand that. But I know that innocence.
I remember wanting to sleep with my teacher.
Me too. Miss Compton, 6th grade. She was hot.
I was not sleep, but
and in high
I
school
take that back.
too.
I don't know. I didn't know what sleep. I don't think.
Well, 6th grade was the earliest year for me that I'd be like, I want to have sex with her.
Yeah,
I didn't even know what sex was.
I didn't think about sex necessarily, but I'd get in trouble and she'd bend over and like talk to me, and I'd just be looking at her shirt. It's like, huh? Oh yeah, no problem. Absolutely, that's my fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she didn't engage you, so.
No, of course not.
Well, of course not. Thank God.
Right, I guess.
Because then you would have been part of the statistic.
I would have been part of the statistic. So it's better that it didn't happen. But, you know, honestly, back then, I might have tried to do something. I don't know. Maybe not. You never know. But if she had done it back then she'd have been wrong, and she should have got arrested and put in jail.
Well, the only good thing of this story to take from is that you can't discriminate against any race, color, sex, or age. Everybody's doing it. It's wrong. We need to talk about it more. Like we said, talk to your kids. I'm going to play this last because I think it's important. This is Kimberly. She's going
to take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man.
So this is if I can get it to play.
Just be nice. Just be nice.
It's just the 800 numbers. I'm gonna leave it in the description.
It's going. Don't hit anything.
Nothing.
Don't hit anything. It's got the blue wheel going.
Oh, that's thinking, right?
It's thinking about it. It's
trying to invent the wheel.
It's thinking. It's thinking.
So I'm gonna leave these 800 numbers in the description. If you tune into this and you're a young parent or an old parent and you think that your kid's being abused, or if you're
paranoid,
if you're a student and you happen to come across this content and you need someone to talk to, you can email us at freshproducefloridamedia@gmail. I'm not a professional.
Yeah, I was gonna say they probably shouldn't be emailing us.
Well, I mean, if you have questions or anything, I can
I don't
guide you to a professional that's going to be able to help you.
Google.com will be able to help you a lot better than Phraydoe Peans and Chris Thompson. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to give out these 800 numbers if I can get them to freaking load up.
You ain't got the answers, Sway.
They'll be in the description. Look out in the description. All the 800 numbers will be there. I was gonna have Kimberly play them but Kimberly's having problems. She's probably on the toilet.
She is not a real person.
Thompson, we've been over this before.
I feel like this is like a running joke.
Well, like always, it's freshproducefloridamedia@gmail. Join in on the conversation. Whatever social media you see this content on, comment, share.
Be angry.
I haven't said subscribe yet.
Be happy.
It's the first time I said subscribe.
Dude, it's still subscribe? Yeah, because it's YouTube, right?
Yeah, if you catch us on YouTube.
YouTube is...
Whatever platform, just stay in contact with us.
Say what's up.
My name is Phraydoe Peans.
I'm Thompson.
We love you. Be safe.
I love you.
Stop molesting children, people.
I don't want to...